Farmer enters the barn early, and the caretaker asks for silence what was hidden. Frank Miller always woke up before sunrise to check on the animals, but on that March morning something felt different. The silence in the barn seemed heavier than usual, and he could feel a tension in the air that he couldn't explain. When he opened the main barn door, he expected to hear the usual whinnying of horses and the movement of cows preparing for milking. Instead, he was startled by a calloused hand that firmly covered his mouth, making him choke in surprise. "Mr. Frank, for God's sake, don't make a sound," whispered Henry, his trusted caretaker of over 15 years. The farmer's wide eyes tried to understand what was happening. Henry, a black man in his early 40s, wore his yellow work gloves and his time-worn cap. His eyes showed an urgency Frank had never seen before. "Henry, what in the world is going on here?" murmured Frank, pushing the employee's hand away from his mouth. "There's someone here you need to see, but promise you won't yell or make a scene," Henry asked, his voice choked with emotion. Frank adjusted his straw hat and brushed the dust off his beige work shirt that he wore every day. Something in Henry's tone made him hesitate. In 15 years of working together, he had never seen the man so nervous. "Who's here, Henry? If it's some thief—" "It's not a thief, Mr. Frank. It's much more complicated than that." Henry led his employer toward the back of the barn, where the hay bales were stacked. The smell of dry straw mixed with the scent of the animals created a heavy atmosphere in the still dark morning. It was then that Frank saw something that made his heart stop for a moment. Between the hay bales, a young woman lay sleeping deeply. Her brown hair spread over an old blanket, and her tremendously swollen belly indicated a well-advanced pregnancy. But she wasn't just any young woman. Those were her unmistakable green eyes, even closed in sleep. The shape of her face, the small nose, the almost imperceptible scar on her left forehead that she'd had since childhood. "My God in heaven," whispered Frank, feeling his legs go weak. Emily. Emily Miller, his only daughter, was there sleeping in the hay like some animal. The daughter he had thrown out of the house 2 years earlier when he discovered her pregnancy, casting her out on a rainy May afternoon, shouting that she had dishonored the family name. "How is she here?" asked Frank, his voice trembling. "Mr. Frank, I can explain everything, but first promise you won't make noise. She's only been asleep for a few hours and needs to rest. It's been a very difficult week." The farmer looked at Henry with a mixture of anger and confusion. How could his trusted employee have hidden something so important from him? Emily stirred in her sleep, murmuring something incomprehensible. Her belly moved with the kicks of the child she was carrying, and Frank could see that she was much thinner than the last time he'd seen her. Her cheeks were hollow, and there was a paleness in her face that betrayed weeks of poor nutrition. "How long has she been here?" questioned Frank, still processing the situation. 3 months, sir. Since December." 3 months? Frank slightly raised his voice, making Henry desperately signal for him to calm down. Emily opened her eyes slowly, still sleepy. When she saw her father standing there looking at her with an expression of shock, she tried to get up quickly, but the weight of her belly made her lose her balance and fall back onto the hay. "Dad," she said, her voice weak and scared. "Emily, I'll leave right now," she said, trying to get up again. "Henry, I'm sorry. I promised this wouldn't happen." "Calm down, young lady. You're not going anywhere in this condition," said Henry, helping her sit down comfortably. Frank stood still, watching the daughter he hadn't seen for 2 years. She looked so fragile, so different from the stubborn young woman who had defied his rules and family traditions. Now she was a woman about to become a mother, carrying a child from a father who had disappeared as soon as he learned about the pregnancy. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing... "Were you living here in my stable all this time?" asked Frank, still trying to process the information. "Mr. Frank, let me explain," Henry intervened. "She wasn't living here the whole time. I found her at the Sacramento bus station in December, sleeping on a bench, suffering from cold and hunger." Emily lowered her head, ashamed. "Dad, I know you don't want to see me, but I had nowhere else to go." "What do you mean you had nowhere to go? What about that Tyler? The mayor's son who got you pregnant?" "He disappeared when he found out about the baby," replied Emily with tears in her eyes. He said he would take responsibility, that we would get married, but then he changed his phone number and his family denied everything. Frank felt anger growing in his chest, but he didn't know if it was toward his cowardly son-in-law or the situation as a whole. "And your mother? Does she know you're here?" Henry and Emily exchanged a guilty look. "Mr. Frank, Mrs. Sarah does know," admitted Henry. "She's been coming here secretly, bringing food and medicine for Emily." "What?" "Dad, Mom tried to talk to you several times, but whenever she brought up my name, you got angry and changed the subject." Frank remembered the many times Sarah had tried to start conversations about Emily in recent months, and how he always cut the subject short, saying he no longer had a daughter. "So you two have been deceiving me all this time?" "It wasn't to deceive you, Mr. Frank," explained Henry. "We were just trying to help someone in need. I couldn't stand seeing my boss's daughter sleeping on the street, going hungry." Emily tried to get up again. "I'll leave now, Dad. I don't want to cause any more trouble." "You're not going anywhere in this condition," said Frank, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. "Dad, sit right there and explain this whole story to me from the beginning. Henry, go get her a glass of water." Henry quickly left to get water, leaving father and daughter alone for the first time in 2 years. The silence was heavy, full of unspoken words and accumulated hurts. "How have you been getting by?" asked Frank, his voice softer now. "Physically or emotionally?" Emily tried to form a sad smile. "Both. The baby is fine. According to the doctor Mom took me to secretly. It should be born in a few weeks. Emotionally? Well, it's not easy." Frank observed his daughter's condition. Her clothes were the same ones Sarah had worn years ago, clearly borrowed. She was barefoot, with the swollen feet typical of late pregnancy. "Emily, where were you all this time before coming here?" "I moved around a lot, Dad. I spent a few months at a friend's house in Pittsburgh, but her family wasn't too happy about the situation. I slept in shelters when I could, sometimes right at the bus station." "My God, Emily." "I tried to find work, but when people see a pregnant woman without a husband, they immediately make a face. No one wants to hire." Henry returned with a glass of water and some cookies. "Emily, you need to eat something. It's been a while since you've eaten properly." "Thank you, Henry. You've always taken good care of me." Frank watched the interaction between the two and realized there was a relationship of affection and protection that had developed during these months. Henry treated Emily as if she were his own daughter. "Henry, tell me how you found her at the bus station." "Mr. Miller, I was coming back from Sacramento where I went to pick up those seeds you ordered. It was about 10 at night, cold and raining. I saw her sitting on a bench, shivering from the cold, with a small bag beside her." "And did you recognize her right away?" "I sure did. Even with all the time that had passed, she still looks just like Mrs. Sarah when she was young. Those green eyes are impossible to forget." Emily smiled slightly. "I recognized Henry right away too. I thought he might ignore me after everything that happened." "Never, girl. You grew up here on this farm. I saw you learn to walk, to ride a horse." Frank remembered how Emily had always been close to Henry. As a child, she spent hours in the stable, helping to care for the animals and listening to the stories the caretaker told about his youth. "And how did you arrange this situation here?" "Mr. Miller, at first I just offered to bring her home for one night, to take a hot bath and eat a home-cooked meal. But when Mrs. Sarah found out..." "Sarah found out the same day?" "She did. And she cried like a child. She said she was sure Emily was okay, that she had managed to get by on her own, but seeing her in that state..." Emily wiped away a tear that had trickled down. "Mom wanted me to come home right away, but I knew you would be angry. We decided it would be better for me to stay here in the stable for a few days, just until I found another place. But the days turned into weeks," Henry continued, "and before we knew it, 3 months had passed." "And me? How did you manage to hide this from me all this time?" "Mr. Miller, you always wake up at 5 in the morning and come straight here, so Emily always slept in the back behind the bales of hay. When you left for breakfast, she could move around more freely." "And at night?" "At night, Emily would go to Henry's house," explained Emily. "Mrs. Dorothy has always been very good to me." Frank knew Dorothy, Henry's wife of more than 20 years, a sweet, motherly woman who had never been able to have children of her own. Dorothy knows all about this too. She does, Mr. Miller, and she's been taking care of Emily as if she were her own daughter. Frank ran his hand over his face, trying to process everything he was hearing. In just a few minutes, he discovered that his wife, his trusted caretaker, and even the caretaker's wife were involved in a conspiracy to hide his pregnant daughter right under his nose. "Emily, how is your health? Is the baby well?" "Yes, Dad. Mom took me to the private doctor in Fresno last month. He said everything is normal, that it should be born in the next 2 weeks." 2 weeks? "Yes. I'm 38 weeks along." Frank did the math in his head. If Emily was 38 weeks, it meant she had gotten pregnant in June of the previous year, shortly before he found out and threw her out of the house. "Emily, tell me the truth about Tyler. How did it all happen?" Emily took a deep breath before she began to speak. "Dad, I was in love. Tyler would always seek me out after church, said he wanted to date me seriously. He talked about marriage, about starting a family." "And you believed him?" "I did, Dad. He seemed sincere. He took me out to dinner at restaurants in Fresno, introduced me to some of his college friends. I thought it was serious." "And when did you find out you were pregnant?" "I told him first before telling you. I thought he would be happy, that he would want to get married right away." Henry shook his head sadly. "But he reacted differently, right, Emily?" "Very different. First he was in shock. Then he started saying he wasn't sure if the child was his, that maybe it would be better if I took care of the situation." "Resolve how?" "You know how, Dad. He wanted me to do something that went against everything you taught me." Frank felt the anger grow again. Tyler had not only abandoned his daughter, but had also suggested she get rid of the child. And then? Then he just disappeared, changed his cell phone number, stopped going to the places we used to meet. When I went to his house, his mother said he had traveled to study in New York, and she didn't know when he'd be back. And the mayor, his father. Mayor Richard said he wouldn't allow any adventurous to ruin his son's future, that I had no way to prove the baby was Tyler's, and that I'd better stop making up stories. Frank clenched his fists. Richard Johnson had been mayor of Sacramento for 3 terms, a man who always presented himself as a Christian and defender of the traditional family, but who was protecting his cowardly son at the expense of a young woman's honor. "Dad, that's why I took so long to tell you. I knew that when you found out, you'd want to resolve the situation with Tyler's family, and I was afraid of causing more problems. But you ended up telling us." "I did, because there came a point where I couldn't hide it anymore, and I thought maybe you'd help me talk to them, to resolve things in a civilized way." Frank remembered that day perfectly. Emily had come home early from the city, asked to speak with him and Sarah in the living room. With her face red with shame, she had told them about the pregnancy, about Tyler, about everything. His reaction had been explosive. He yelled, called his daughter irresponsible, said she had brought shame to the family. He hadn't even listened to the explanations about Tyler, just told her to leave the house and not come back until she had resolved the situation. "Emily, Dad, I know you reacted that way because you were disappointed in me. I understand." "No, you don't understand," said Frank, his voice choked. "I reacted that way because I was afraid." "Afraid?" "Afraid that the same thing that happened to your mother would happen to you." Emily and Henry looked at each other, confused. "What happened to Mom?" Frank hesitated before answering. It was a story he had never told Emily, a secret he had kept for over 20 years. "Your mother was also pregnant before marriage, Emily, with you." The silence that followed was heavy. Emily's eyes widened as she processed the information. "What do you mean, Dad?" "When your mother found out she was pregnant with you, we weren't married yet. We had been dating for 2 years, but I still didn't have the courage to propose because the financial situation was tough." Henry listened attentively, surprised to discover this part of the family history he had served for so long. "And what happened?" "Your mother's father, your grandfather Robert, was furious. He said the same things I said to you, that she had dishonored the family, that she had to fend for herself. But you got married." We got married because I stood up to your grandfather. I said I would take responsibility, that I would take care of her and the baby. But it was a very difficult time, Emily. Your grandfather cut off relations with your mother for over a year." Emily began to cry. "Why did you never tell me this? Because I didn't want you to think you could do the same thing. But I realize now that my reaction was the same as your grandfather's. I repeated the same mistake he made." Henry put his hand on Emily's shoulder, comforting her. "See, girl? Things work out. Your father and mother got married and were happy. But with me it's different," sobbed Emily. "Tyler won't take responsibility. He doesn't even want to know about the baby." "Then it's better that way," said Frank, surprising them both. "A man who abandons a pregnant woman doesn't deserve to be a father." Emily looked at her father with surprise. It was the first time in 2 years that he had said something that wasn't criticism or a reprimand. "Do you really think that?" "I do. Henry, you said it's been difficult taking care of her here. What do you mean?" "Mr. Miller, Emily has had some complications with the pregnancy. Nothing serious, but the doctor said she needs rest and proper nutrition." "What kind of complications?" "Her blood pressure rises sometimes, and she's been having some false contractions that scare us." Frank looked at his daughter with concern. "And are you taking the right medicines?" "Yes, Father. Mom buys everything the doctor prescribes." "With what money?" Henry and Emily exchanged glances again. "Mr. Miller, Mrs. Sarah has been using her savings." "What savings?" "That money she saved from selling eggs and vegetables at the market." Frank remembered the small amounts that Sarah had religiously saved every month from selling farm products at the town market. It was money she had saved for years to fulfill small dreams, like renovating the kitchen or buying new furniture. "She spent all her savings?" "Yes, sir," confirmed Henry. "And when it ran out, I started helping too." "How?" "With my salary, Mr. Miller. I buy the medicines and the special food the doctor ordered." Frank felt terrible. His trusted farmhand was spending his own money to take care of his daughter, while he, the father, didn't even know she existed. "Henry, you have your own family to support." "Yes, sir. But Dorothy understands. She always said that Emily is like a daughter to us." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. At that moment, Emily made a pained expression and put her hands on her belly. "Emily, what is it?" asked Frank, alarmed. "I think it's just another false contraction," she said, taking a deep breath. "It's been happening a lot lately." Henry approached, worried. "Emily, was that one stronger than the others?" "A little, but it's gone now." Frank didn't like what he saw at all. "Henry, call Sarah. She needs to see this." "Mr. Miller, Mrs. Sarah only comes here at night when you're asleep. Then send for her now. Go to the house and tell her it's urgent." "Father, you don't need to—" "Yes, I do," said Frank firmly. "Henry, go get my wife, now." Henry left quickly, leaving father and daughter alone again. Frank approached and sat on the hay next to Emily. "How are you really feeling?" "Tired, Father, very tired. It's been hard to sleep here, even with Henry and Dorothy taking such good care of me." "And the baby? Does he move a lot?" "Yes, especially at night. Sometimes I lie awake feeling him move, imagining what it will be like when he's born." "Do you know if it's a boy or a girl?" "A boy, the doctor said at the last appointment." Frank smiled for the first time since he had entered the stable. "A boy?" "Yes. Mom has even chosen a name. She wants to call him Noah." "Noah is a beautiful name. You're not mad at me anymore." Frank looked at his daughter, seeing for the first time in 2 years not the stubborn teenager who had defied his rules, but a woman who was about to become a mother, who had been through difficult situations and had grown from them. "I am mad, Emily, but not at you." "At who?" "At myself, for reacting the way I did, for throwing you out of the house, for not listening to your side of the story." Emily began to cry again. "Father, I tried to come back a few times. I came to the farm gate, but I always lost my courage." "Why?" "Because I knew you were still angry, and I was afraid of being rejected again." Frank felt his heart tighten. Emily, I was angry because I thought you had chosen a difficult path on purpose, but now I see you were deceived by a coward. You believe me? I do. And will you forgive me for not believing you before? Emily threw herself into her father's arms, crying with emotion. Frank hugged her, feeling how much thinner and more fragile she was than before. Dad, I missed you so much. I missed you too, my daughter, more than you can imagine. At that moment, Sarah came running into the stable, followed by Henry. Seeing her husband and daughter embraced, she stopped at the entrance, surprised. Frank, Sarah, we need to talk, all three of us. Sarah approached cautiously. You found out? I did, and I want to understand how you organized this whole situation without me knowing. Frank, I can explain. You can explain, yes. But first, Emily had a contraction a little while ago. Do you think we should call the doctor? Sarah immediately approached her daughter, touching her belly with the experienced hands of someone who had been through a pregnancy before. Emily, what was the contraction like? It hurt more than the others, Mum, and it lasted longer too. Let's time the next ones. If they come at regular intervals, we'll have to go to the hospital. Frank watched how Sarah cared for Emily with natural ease, as if she had never stopped being her mother. Sarah, how long have you known she was here? Since the first day, Frank. Henry told me the same day he brought her from the bus station. And why didn't you tell me? Because I knew what your reaction would be. You would have sent her away again, and you thought it was better to deceive me. I thought it was better to protect our daughter, said Sarah firmly. She was starving, Frank, sleeping on the street, pregnant. Frank felt ashamed, and I didn't even ask if she was okay. You said you didn't have a daughter anymore, remember? That she should fend for herself. I know what I said, Sarah, and I regret it. Sarah looked at him surprised. In 23 years of marriage, it was rare for Frank to admit he had made a mistake. You regret it? I do, very much. Emily told me about what happened with Tyler, about how he treated her. I should have supported our daughter, not thrown her out of the house. Emily had another contraction, this time stronger. She bent over, clutching her belly and groaning in pain. That one was much stronger, she said, panting. Sarah looked at Frank. I think we'd better go to the hospital. The contractions are getting closer. But isn't it time for the baby to be born yet? It's almost time, Frank, and some complications can make the baby come early. Henry approached. Mr. Frank, I can take them in my car. No, Henry, I'll take them. It's my family. Emily looked at her father, moved. You'll come with me? Yes, I will. And I'll stay there until my grandson is born. Our grandson, corrected Sarah, smiling. Frank helped Emily to her feet, supporting her as they walked toward the stable exit. Henry accompanied them, carrying a small bag that Sarah had kept ready for weeks. Henry, thank you for taking care of Emily all this time. No need to thank me, Mr. Frank. It was a pleasure to help. Yes, there is. You did what I should have done. You protected my daughter when she needed it most. On the way to the pickup truck, Emily had 2 more contractions. It was evident that labor had begun. Frank, drive carefully, but try to be quick, asked Sarah. Don't worry. Dad, do you think Henry can come with us? Asked Emily. Of course he can. Henry, get Dorothy and come with us. Mr. Frank, let me just lock up the stable and feed the horses. Forget the horses, Henry. Today they'll go without breakfast. My grandson is being born. During the trip to the hospital in Fresno, Emily had contractions every 5 minutes. Sarah held her hand in the back seat while Frank Miller drove intently, and Henry tried to calm everyone. Emily, breathe slowly when the contraction comes, Sarah instructed. It hurts so much, Mom. That's normal, sweetheart. It's always like this at first. Frank glanced in the rearview mirror, watching his daughter suffer through the contractions. Emily, do you want me to pull over somewhere? No, Dad, let's go straight to the hospital. Do you know the way well, Mr. Miller? Asked Henry. I do. It's the same hospital where Emily was born 22 years ago. Really? Emily smiled between contractions. Really? Your mother also had a difficult delivery. You took your time being born. How long? 14 hours, Sarah replied. You were stubborn from the very beginning. And I was just as nervous then as I am now, Frank admitted. Emily had a stronger contraction and cried out in pain. Oh my God, that one really hurt. Calm down, Emily. We're almost there, said Frank, speeding up a little. When they arrived at the hospital, Frank stopped at the emergency entrance and ran to get a wheelchair. The hospital staff, accustomed to delivery situations, acted quickly. How many weeks? Asked the nurse. 38, Sarah replied. First pregnancy? Yes. Contractions, how many minutes apart? Every 3 minutes now. The nurse quickly assessed Emily and decided to take her directly to the delivery room. Can I come along? Sarah asked. Yes, you can. And are you the father? I am, replied Frank, emotional. Would you like to come too? Frank looked at Emily, who nodded. Yes, I would. Henry and Dorothy, who had arrived a few minutes later, stayed in the waiting room. Dorothy, thank you for taking care of Emily, said Frank before entering the delivery room. She's like a daughter to us, Mr. Miller. In the delivery room, Emily was being prepped by the doctors. Dr. William, an experienced obstetrician who had treated other women in the area, examined Emily quickly. Dilation is good, but the baby is a little stressed. We'll keep a close eye. Stressed how? Asked Frank, worried. His heart rate is a bit fast. It could be from labor, but we'll stay vigilant. Emily squeezed her father's hand. Dad, it hurts so much. I know, sweetheart, but it will pass. Soon you'll have your son in your arms. Our Noah, said Sarah, stroking her daughter's hair. Noah Frank, corrected Emily, looking at her father. Frank was moved. You want to give the baby my name? I do. Despite everything, you were always a good father. I was the stubborn one. Don't say that, Emily. You weren't stubborn. You were deceived by a coward. The labor lasted another 6 hours. Frank stayed by his daughter's side the whole time, holding her hand, wiping her sweat, talking to her to distract her from the pain. During one of the strongest contractions, Emily cried out, Dad, I can't take it anymore. Yes, you can, sweetheart. You're strong. Stronger than you think. How do you know? Because you survived 2 years on your own. Because you found the courage to come back. Because you're bringing my grandson into the world despite all the obstacles. The doctor positioned himself. Emily, with the next contraction, you're going to push. The baby is almost here. I'm scared, Emily admitted. You don't need to be scared, said Frank. Your mother and I are here. Henry and Dorothy are outside cheering for you. You're not alone. With the next contraction, Emily pushed with all the energy she had left. The doctor smiled. I can see the head. One more time, Emily. Emily pushed again, crying out in pain and effort, and then at 3:47 p.m. on that March afternoon, Noah Frank was born. The baby's strong cry echoed through the room, making everyone smile with emotion. The doctor lifted little Noah so everyone could see him. It's a healthy boy, 9 pounds and 4 ounces. Frank cried when he saw his grandson for the first time. He was tiny, reddish, but perfectly formed, and when the baby opened his eyes for the first time, they were identical to his grandfather's when he was a baby. He has your eyes, Frank, said Sarah, moved. And Emily's nose, Frank added. Emily was exhausted, but smiled when she saw her son. May I hold him? The nurse wrapped Noah in a little blanket and placed him in his mother's arms. Here is your son. Hi, Noah, said Emily with tears in her eyes. I'm your mommy. Frank approached and gently touched his grandson's little head. And I'm your grandpa. It took me a while to get here, but I'm here now. Sarah also touched the baby. And I'm your grandma. We're going to take very good care of you both. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like the video, and especially to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. After all the medical procedures, Emily was taken to a private room that Frank insisted on paying for. Henry and Dorothy were finally able to meet Noah, and they were moved. What a beautiful little boy, said Dorothy, holding the baby carefully. He's going to be a strong boy, said Henry. He was born with his eyes wide open, curious to see the world. Frank pulled Henry to a corner of the room. Henry, I need to talk to you. Of course, Mr. Miller. First, I want to apologize to you. You did for my family what I did not do. You protected my daughter when she needed it most. Mr. Miller, let me finish. Second, I want to give you a raise, a considerable raise. You spent your own money taking care of Emily, and that can't keep happening. You don't have to, Mr. Miller. Yes, I do. And third, I want you to come live in the main house. What do you mean? There are 2 empty rooms in the house. Emily and Noah are going to need care, and I want you to be close by to help. Henry was moved. Mr. Miller, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. You're family now. Emily, who was resting in bed with Noah in her arms, called her father. Dad, can I talk to you? Frank approached the bed. Of course, daughter. I want you to know that I never doubted your love for me. What do you mean? Even when you kicked me out of the house, I knew it was because you were disappointed, not because you didn't love me anymore. Emily. Dad, I know it was hard for you to accept my pregnancy. I understand your reasons. But I was wrong, daughter, very wrong. Maybe. But it was that mistake that made me grow up. That made me understand I needed to be strong, independent. Frank held his daughter's hand. You won't have to be strong alone ever again. From today on, the whole family is here to help. Noah started to cry, and Emily tried to calm him. I think he's hungry, said Sarah. The nurse said it's normal for them to cry at first. They're adapting to the new world, Frank explained. Emily tried to breastfeed Noah with the help of Sarah and an experienced nurse. It was the first time, so it required patience and practice. Easy, Emily. It's normal to be difficult at first, said the nurse. After a few tries, Noah managed to nurse, and everyone was relieved. There we go, said Frank, smiling. That night, Frank stayed at the hospital with Emily and Noah. Sarah had gone home to get a few things, and Henry and Dorothy had also gone back to the farm to tend to the animals. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course, daughter. Are you really okay with this whole situation? Noah not having a father, me being a single mother. Frank thought carefully before answering. Emily, when you were born, I was terrified. I thought I wouldn't be able to be a good father, that I wouldn't know how to take care of you properly. But you did. I did because your mother helped me, and because you taught me how to be a father every single day. Now with Noah, it's going to be the same thing. We'll learn together how to be a family again. But what about the people in town? What will they say? Let them talk. Anyone who wants to speak ill of my family will have to go through me first. Emily smiled. You've changed, Dad. I have. These 2 years made me think a lot about the things that really matter in life. And what are they? Family, love, forgiveness, new beginnings. Noah slept peacefully in the crib next to the bed. Frank watched him for a few minutes, still trying to process that he had become a grandfather. Emily, tomorrow I want to get a few things done. What kind of things? First, I'm going to register Noah as Noah Frank Miller, son of Emily Miller, grandson of Frank and Sarah Miller. And the father? Will the birth certificate be left blank? It'll stay blank until that coward Tyler shows up to take responsibility, if he ever does. And if he doesn't show up, then Noah will grow up knowing he has a grandfather who loves him very much, a mother who fought for him, a grandmother who took care of him even before he was born, and pretend uncles who protected him when he was still in the womb. Emily was moved. Pretend uncles? Henry and Dorothy. They're our family now. Dad, I love you. I love you too, my dear, very much. And I love this grandson of mine too. How can you love him if you just met him today? The same way I loved you even before you were born. Love doesn't need time, Emily. It just happens. The next morning, Sarah arrived early at the hospital with new clothes for Noah and a hearty breakfast for Emily. How was the night? Peaceful, replied Emily. Noah only woke up twice to nurse. And you, Frank, did you manage to sleep in the chair? I did. Better than I've been sleeping at home these past few months. Why? Because now I know my family is complete again. The doctor arrived to do the final checkup for Emily and Noah before the hospital discharge. Everything is perfect. You can go home this afternoon. Doctor, is any special care needed? Asked Frank. Proper nutrition for Emily. rest and lots of affection for Noah. He's a healthy baby. And when will he need to come in for his first appointment? In a week. I'll be monitoring his development during the first few months. Frank felt responsible and anxious to ensure Noah would have all the necessary medical care. That afternoon, when they left the hospital, Frank drove slowly, being extra careful since he was transporting his grandson for the first time. "Emily, when we get home, I want to show you something." "What is it, Dad?" "A surprise." When they arrived at the ranch, Emily was surprised to see that her room had been completely renovated. There was a new crib, diapers, clothes, toys, everything a baby could need. "Dad, when did you do this?" "Sarah organized everything last night while we were at the hospital. Henry helped assemble the crib." Emily began to cry with emotion. "You did all this for us?" "We did, and there's more," said Sarah, opening the wardrobe. "There are clothes for Noah up until he's 2 years old." "Mom, Emily, it's been 2 years since I could buy anything for you. Let me make up for lost time." Frank approached his daughter. "Emily, I know we still have to talk about many things, about the future, about how you want to organize your life from now on." "I want to stay here, Dad, here at the ranch with you." "Are you sure?" "I am. There's no place in the world where Noah and I will be happier than here." "And what do you want to do? Work? Study?" "I want to finish the veterinary course I had started, and I want to help you take care of the farm." Frank smiled. "That's a wonderful idea. The farm will be Noah's one day anyway." "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Aren't you worried about what the people in town will say about me coming home with a baby and no husband?" Frank thought for a moment. "Emily, you know what I've learned these past 2 years?" "What?" "That people's opinions don't put food on our table. They don't pay the bills. They don't take care of our children when they're sick. The only thing that matters is what our family thinks. And if people talk badly, let them talk. Anyone who doesn't like the situation can find another place to buy eggs and vegetables." Sarah laughed. "Frank is right. And besides, half the women in town are jealous of our family." "Jealous why?" "Because we have a prosperous farm, a solid marriage, and now a beautiful grandson." "Who wouldn't be jealous?" Noah started to cry, and Emily picked him up. "I think he's hungry again." "That's normal," said Sarah. "In the first few days they nurse a lot." Frank watched Emily breastfeeding Noah in her room, surrounded by the family's affection. It was a scene he had imagined many times over the last 2 years, but never thought would actually happen. "Emily, can I tell you something?" "Of course, Dad." "Every night after I kicked you out of the house, I would stand on the porch looking at the road, waiting for you to come back." "Really?" "Really. Your mother always told me to go after you, but I was too proud to admit I was wrong." "And now? Now I know that pride is one of the silliest things there is. It's not worth losing family over pride." Noah finished nursing and fell asleep in his mother's arms. Emily carefully put him in the crib. "Dad, I'm scared." "Scared of what?" "That I won't be a good mother, that I won't know how to take care of him properly." "Emily, do you think I knew how to be a father when you were born?" "I don't know. I didn't know a thing. Even though I grew up on the farm, even though I know how to take care of animals, I had no idea how to take care of a human baby." "And how did you learn?" "By trial and error, by asking your mother, my mother, the neighbors, by watching you and trying to understand what you needed." "And if I do something wrong?" "You will. All parents do. But Noah will grow up knowing he is loved, and that's the most important thing." That night, Frank had trouble sleeping. Not from worry, but from emotion. He got up a few times during the night to check if Emily and Noah were okay. The third time he got up, Sarah woke up. "Frank, what's going on?" "Nothing. I just wanted to see if they're okay." "They're fine. Noah is a strong, healthy baby." "Sarah, do you think I'll be a good grandfather?" Sarah smiled in the dark. "Frank, you're going to be a wonderful grandfather, just like you were a wonderful father. But I kicked our daughter out of the house. And then you took her back. You admitted your mistake. You asked for forgiveness. That's what matters. I want Noah to grow up knowing all the family stories. I want to teach him how to ride a horse, how to take care of the animals, how to love the land. And you will. You'll have plenty of time together. The following week, Frank made a point of going with Emily to Noah's first doctor's appointment at the hospital. The baby was gaining weight properly and developing perfectly. "Doctor, can he go outside, get some fresh air?" asked Frank. "Yes, he can, but be careful. Avoid very crowded places for the first few months." "And can he meet the farm animals?" The doctor laughed. "He can meet them, but keep his distance for now. His immune system is still getting stronger." When they got home, Frank had an idea. "Emily, come with me. I want to show you and Noah something." Frank took Emily and Noah to the stable where everything had begun a few weeks earlier. "Remember that morning when you were sleeping back there behind the hay bales?" "I remember. I was angry that day. Very angry. But now I understand it was destiny." "How so, Dad?" "If you hadn't been here, if Henry hadn't taken care of you, maybe Noah would have been born on the street, or worse, maybe you wouldn't be here today." Emily looked around the stable, remembering those difficult months. "This is where I first felt Noah move," she said. "Really? Really? I was lying there in the hay one afternoon, and I felt a little something moving in my belly. I got so emotional I started crying." Frank imagined his daughter there alone, experiencing that special moment with no one to share it with. "And now Noah is born and you're home safe. Dad, I want when Noah grows up he knows his story started here in this stable." "Why?" "Because this is where our family reunited. This is where you forgave me. This is where everything changed." Frank was moved by his daughter's words. "Then let's do this," he said. "Every year on Noah's birthday, we'll come here to the stable to tell him how it all began." "That's a great idea." Noah was sleeping in his mother's arms, unaware of the emotional conversation happening around him. "Emily, can I ask you something?" "Of course, Dad." "Do you miss Tyler?" Emily thought for a moment before answering. "I miss who I thought he was, the person I imagined him to be. But the real Tyler, the man who abandoned me while I was pregnant, I don't miss him at all. And if he shows up again, wanting to be part of Noah's life?" "It won't happen, Dad. But if it does, he'll have to prove he deserves to be part of my son's life. And what would he have to do to prove that? First, apologize to me and to you and Mom for how he treated me. Second, publicly acknowledge that Noah is his son. Third, contribute financially to Noah's upbringing since his birth." Frank smiled at his daughter's maturity. "And fourth? Fourth, prove he's changed, that he won't abandon people anymore when things get tough." "Do you think he's changed?" "I don't know, Dad. But if he hasn't, he'd better stay away from us." That afternoon, Frank had a serious talk with Henry. "Henry, I have a proposal for you." "What proposal, Mr. Miller?" "I want you to be Noah's godfather." Henry was moved. "Mr. Miller, I don't know if—" "Henry, you took care of Emily when I didn't. You protected my grandson before he was even born. If that isn't being a godfather, I don't know what is." "But I'm your employee." "You're not an employee, Henry, you're family. And I want Noah to grow up knowing he has a godfather who loves him." Henry accepted, emotional. "And can Dorothy be the godmother?" "Of course she can. You both deserve it." The following Sunday, Frank did something that surprised the whole town. He showed up at the 9 o'clock Mass with Emily, Noah, Sarah, Henry, and Dorothy, and asked the priest to publicly announce his grandson's birth. "Father Michael, I'd like you to announce the birth of my grandson, Noah Frank Miller, son of my daughter Emily Miller." The priest, who had known the family for years, made the announcement. Some people looked surprised, others whispered among themselves, but most smiled and congratulated the family. After Mass, Frank faced some direct comments. "Frank, I thought you had thrown your daughter out of the house," said a neighbor. "I did, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. Now she's back where she always should have been." "And the child's father?" "The child's father is a coward who abandoned a pregnant woman. But Noah has a family that loves him, and that's what matters." Some people tried to make negative comments, but Frank didn't engage. "Miss Mildred, do you have some problem with my family?" "No, Frank, but—" "Then there's nothing left to discuss. Good afternoon." Emily watched her father defending his family and felt proud of his courage. "Dad, you didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. People need to know that you and Noah are welcome anywhere in this town." In the following weeks, Frank made a point of taking Noah to see every corner of the farm. "Noah, this is your land," he said, carrying his grandson in his arms. "One day you'll take care of all this." Emily laughed, seeing her father's affection for Noah. "Dad, he still doesn't understand anything you're saying. He may not understand the words, but he understands love. And that's what matters." Frank started waking up even earlier every day to have time to help Emily with Noah before starting work on the farm. "Emily, you can go sleep a bit more. I'll stay with him." "Dad, you don't need to." "Yes, I do. You're tired, you need to rest." Frank had become a completely devoted grandfather. He changed diapers, gave baths, put Noah to sleep when he was fussy. "Frank, you're more doting than when Emily was born," Sarah teased. "He's my first grandson, Sarah. I can dote a little." "A little? You're completely smitten with him." "And can't I be?" "Yes, you can. It's beautiful to see you two together." Noah grew quickly. At 1 month, he was already smiling at his grandfather. At 2 months, he babbled when Frank talked to him. "Emily, he's trying to talk to me," said Frank, moved. "Dad, he's still too little to talk, but he understands everything I say to him. Look how he looks at me." One afternoon, Frank was in the stable with Noah in his arms when he received an unexpected visit. "Frank Miller." Frank turned and saw a well-dressed young man standing at the stable entrance. It was Tyler Johnson, the mayor's son. "What do you want here?" I came to talk about Emily." "About Emily or about your son?" Tyler was embarrassed. "About both." "You're 2 months late. Where were you when she needed you?" "Frank, I know I made mistakes." "Mistakes? You abandoned a pregnant woman. That's not a mistake, it's cowardice." Noah started crying, as if sensing the tension in the air. "Is that my son?" asked Tyler, looking at the baby. "Now you want to know?" 2 months later. Emily appeared at the stable entrance, drawn by Noah's crying. "Tyler, what are you doing here?" "Emily, I came to talk to you." "We have nothing to talk about." "Yes, we do. About our son." "Our son?" Emily laughed bitterly. "You don't have a son, Tyler. You had a chance to have a son and threw it away." Frank handed Noah to Emily and positioned himself between her and Tyler. "Emily, please let me explain," insisted Tyler. "Explain what?" "How you changed your phone number, how your family denied you knew me, how you suggested I get rid of the baby." Tyler was ashamed. "I was scared, Emily." "Scared of what?" "Scared of taking responsibility, scared of hurting my political career." "And now? What changed?" "Now I've grown up. I understood I ran from my responsibilities." Frank didn't like that conversation at all. "Tyler, you can grow up as much as you want. That won't change the fact you abandoned my daughter when she needed you most." "Frank, I know you have reasons to hate me." "We don't hate you, Tyler," said Emily. "We just don't trust you." "And what can I do to regain that trust?" "Nothing," answered Frank. "Some things can't be undone. But I want to take responsibility for my son." "Now you want to?" Emily became angry. 2 months after he's born, you show up wanting to take responsibility. "Emily, I can register him, give him my name." "Noah already has a name, Noah Frank Miller." "But he needs his father's name." "He needs a present father, Tyler, not just a name on paper." Tyler became thoughtful. "What if I commit to being a present father?" "How?" asked Frank. "Visiting him regularly, contributing financially, participating in his education." Emily looked at her father before answering. "Tyler, can you answer one question for me?" "I can." "Why are you here now? What changed?" Tyler hesitated before answering. "My father is pressuring me. He wants me to take responsibility for Noah so it doesn't harm our political image." Frank and Emily exchanged glances. "So you're not here because you regretted it or because you want to meet your son," said Emily. "You're here for political convenience." "It's not just that, Emily. That's exactly it, Tyler. And do you know what I have to say about that?" What? That you can tell your father that Noah Miller is doing just fine without your help. Emily, think about it. I can offer him a better future. Private education, trips, opportunities. Tyler, do you think that's what makes a father? Asked Frank. No, but it helps. Noah will have education, opportunities, and a future, and he'll have something you can never give him, a family that truly loves him. But I can learn to love him. Learn, Emily laughed. Love isn't learned, Tyler. It happens naturally. And you had 9 months to feel love for Noah. You didn't feel it. Tyler was left without arguments. Emily, give me a chance, and no. Please. Tyler, you want Noah in your life for political reasons. When you no longer need the image of a responsible father, you'll abandon him again. I won't. Yes, you will. Because that's what you do. You abandon people when they become inconvenient. Frank approached Tyler. Tyler, you're going to leave my property now and you won't come back. Frank, I have rights. You gave up your rights when you abandoned pregnant Emily. Now, get out of here. This isn't over, threatened Tyler. What do you mean it's not over? Asked Frank, staring at the young man. My father is the mayor. He can make things difficult for you. He can try, but he'll find out that messing with the Miller family isn't a good idea. Tyler left the farm, visibly irritated. Emily, do you think he'll cause trouble for us? Asked Frank. He can try, Dad, but he won't succeed. How can you be so sure? Because we haven't done anything wrong, and because Noah has a family that protects him. That night, Frank talked to Henry about Tyler's visit. Mr. Frank, do you think they'll try something? They might try, but they won't get anything. How can you be sure? Because they have nothing against us, Henry. Noah is being well taken care of. Emily is fine. Our family is stable. What if they make something up? If they make something up, we prove it's a lie, and the whole town knows what kind of person Mayor Richard is. The following week, Frank discovered that his intuition was right. Some people in town mentioned that the mayor was spreading stories about the Miller family. Frank, the mayor is saying that you're preventing Tyler from getting to know his grandson, a neighbor reported. And what else is he saying? That you're harming the baby's development by keeping him away from his father. Frank laughed. And are people believing it? Some, yes. Others, no. Well, then it's time to tell everyone the truth. Frank decided it was time to be more transparent about the situation. The following Sunday, he asked to speak at church. Father Michael, I would like to clarify some lies that are being spread about my family. The priest gave permission, and Frank stepped up to the pulpit. Everyone, some of you may have heard stories about my daughter and my grandson. I want to tell you the truth. And Frank told everything. How Emily had been abandoned while pregnant, how she had spent months on the streets, how Henry had rescued her, how Noah had been born. Now, 2 months after the birth, the child's father showed up wanting to take Noah. Not out of love, not out of responsibility, but for political convenience. The church was in absolute silence. My daughter and my grandson don't need the help of people who only care about them when it's convenient. They have a family that loves them unconditionally. When Frank finished speaking, he received a round of applause from the congregation. After Mass, several people approached to support the family. Frank, you did the right thing, said an elderly lady. Family is who takes care of you, not who abandons you. Emily, you are a brave young woman, said another. Noah is a blessed baby to have you, added a third. Frank felt grateful for the community's support. In the following months, Noah continued to grow healthy and happy. Frank became a present and caring grandfather. Emily resumed her veterinary studies through distance learning courses, and the family found a harmonious balance. Dad, do you regret anything? Asked Emily one afternoon, while Frank was playing with Noah in the backyard. I regret taking so long to understand what really matters in life. And what matters? Love, family, forgiveness. The rest is secondary. Noah, now 6 months old, could already sit by himself and babbled constantly. Frank spent hours talking to him. Noah, your grandpa made many mistakes when your mum was young, but he learned, and he will teach you everything he learned. Emily smiled, seeing the bond between father and grandson. Dad, thank you. Why, daughter? For forgiving me. For taking us back. For loving Noah as much as you do. Emily, I'm the one who should thank you. Thank me for what? For giving me a second chance to be a father, and a first chance to be a grandfather. You were always a good father, Dad. Sometimes a bit stubborn, but always good. And now? Now you are a wonderful father and grandfather. Frank smiled, holding Noah in his lap. The baby played with his grandfather's fingers, completely relaxed and happy. Noah, when you grow up, Grandpa will tell you all the family stories. He'll teach you how to ride a horse, how to care for the animals, how to love this land. And will you teach him to forgive too? Asked Emily. I will, because forgiveness is one of the most important things there is. That afternoon, as the sun set over the farm, Frank felt complete. His family was reunited, his daughter had matured, his grandson was growing up healthy, and he had learned that love is always stronger than pride. The stable where it all began was now a symbol of new beginnings and reconciliation. Noah played in the same place where he had been protected before he was born, and the Miller family was more united than ever. Emily, do you think Noah will remember this whole story when he grows up? He won't remember the facts, but he will remember the love, and that's what matters. Frank nodded, knowing his daughter was right. Noah would grow up knowing he was loved even before he was born, protected by a family that wanted him more than anything in the world. And so, on that golden late afternoon, with Noah sleeping in his grandfather's lap and Emily resting beside them, the Miller family silently celebrated the miracle of being together again. The stable had witnessed not only the birth of a child, but the rebirth of a family. And Frank knew that this was only the first of many stories Noah would live on this land that was now his, too. End of story. What an emotional story. Frank's love and forgiveness completely transformed his family. Tell us in the comments, do you believe he made the right decision by taking Emily back? Leave your like if you were moved and subscribe to the channel for more touching stories.